just giving you a little high idea that how I worked, and same way you can also try to understand how the things actually working. Okay, see, whatever you have, okay, like for example, just see what we exactly need when we work as a data analyst. Okay, let's try to understand that part. That what we need. We don't right now understand in terms of Power BI. Just try to understand in terms of what we need as a data analyst. Okay, so see,
Okay. Yeah.
three things are very major key factor or major key role things in any profile. Either you work as a data engineer or a manager position or anything, or marketing, sales, whatever it is. Like if you're working in a IT company, so what exactly you need to understand first of business first, right? Business understanding is very important. What your business do, right? The second, the domain of that particular business. And the third is what's a business requirement. I know you've already experienced, you know, these things, these three factors, right? That what my business does and in which regarding my business domain it is. And the third is their business requirement, right? Based on requirement, we do our analysis, we do our ETL, we do whatever is requirement for that particular business, right? Now here I'm taking one example. So for example, I'm working in a health domain. So health domain, health department is my business, right? Like either I'm working as a lab or might be working on a medical something, like these are things like in which domain I'm working. So sometimes in a health domain itself, I'm working in the marketing team. Sometimes in a health domain, I'm working in a finance team, right? So these are my domains. And business, so for that particular running a business, what requirement, right? Might be it's a data or marketing skills or whatever the skills you requirement for that particular running the business. So these three things required as a data analyst actually. Why we required? So these are actually three soft skills, but these are very major key skills which required in any platform, any particular business role or platform. But as a data analyst, you should to understand what your business does. So you will able to understand what's your requirement, and based on a requirement, you can make a query or whatever it is, right? So that is a very key factor over here. Now, how a IT company work as a data analyst? So before data, what we need? So first we need a database, right? I need a database. So if I need a database, so install particular write a data or particular write you can say customer data or anything I data. If I need a database, for example, I need a employee database or company database. So what I need for filling the data, yeah, or a data entry, I need a particular software, right? So I need a data source for it, right? I need a data source.
Mhm.
Now we have only three types of data, only three types of data in the market. One is structured, semi-structured, or unstructured. So structured, and we have semi-structured, and then we have unstructured. Only three types of data in the market, types of data we have. I'm not talking about data types, I'm talking about the types of data we have. Okay. Now, if I talk about the structured one, so structured says two-dimensional data. What 2D is means, which have row and column, like an Excel sheet, right? We already see this.
Mm.
The semi-structured means one dimensional. Now, what one dimensional? It is always in form of key pair value. So it will written like a key, and then it will written like a value here. And this is called a semi-structured. Now, what is unstructured? So see, unstructured is also 3D, but it is also form of 2D or 1D might be, but it is a huge amount of data. Now, example of it, if I go with the PDF file, okay, long text file. Also, it covers SQL as well. It's not like that. It doesn't carry a 2D dimensional data. A lot of people have misconception that unstructured data only have video or audio data. It also have a SQL like raw dimensional data, but it will be the unstructured way. Okay.
Mm.
So, what about the final task? See, for analysis, what we need actually for analysis, we need only two-dimensional data. That only can you do analysis, right? If you don't have row and dimension data, right? Row and column data, how can you do your mathematical operations? For that, we need 2D dimension. So it doesn't matter either you work on 1D or either you work on unstructured data. If you need an analysis output, your data should be in two dimension. If you're not doing it, then there is a concept coming which is called color string. Okay, might be heard. There is called concept coming color string. So they have a different cluster, also have a different role, but right now that's not our goal. So I'm just giving a small idea. Okay, now so we understood there are three types of data. Now to storing these types of data, we need a data source. So we get a data source. Now what is data source? It might be your like any software I'm talking about. So it might be MySQL, PostgreSQL, right? So these store two dimensions of data. For 1D, if I'm talking about 1D, so 1D we have a MongoDB, right? You might be had MongoDB. And we have a JSON format. right? JSON, XML format, right? These are the types of data. Then we have unstructured, again I talk of PDF. So we have data source called Hadoop, right? Big things, Hadoop, Hive, these we have. Now, if I want to store a MySQL, let's talk about MySQL and Postgre, okay? Or you can take SQL Server as well. So these are data source. Now, in a data source, we create schema. In a data source, we create a schema like a database. We create a employee database. But before, right now, this all happening in our local system, right? This is like, even if you want to like, if I want to create any database, what we do, we install a MySQL, a Postgre, MongoDB, whatever it is, we install in a local system, and we make a schema in it. But this is not actually happening in a company. What actually happened? We need a cloud for it, right? So before creating a database, I need a cloud for it. Now cloud should be very right. So it will be AWS, it will be Azure, it will be your IBM cloud or something called GCP as well, right? So these are the clouds we have in the market. There are a lot of clouds but these are most popular clouds we have, and mostly used actually AWS and then Azure. These are two mostly used rather than IBM or GCP, and Cloudera is itself. Now in AWS, what we do, we create instances, right? Inside, we also create a database storage in a Redshift, okay, like how much storage we are giving to, and we install our MySQL in that particular instances. So what we get in instances, if we install MySQL, we get a IP address like server ID, and we get our credentials like ID and password. Once we get that, then we connect this through our local data source. We connect through our local data source. In our local data source, now we create a data schema or whatever, then we push our same thing into cloud. So that is actually happening. So what actually dealing with it, it's the same thing, but we are dealing two things. One is server running and cost. And these two are main key factor, right? Like when you're running a server and if you're running 24/7 any particular server, it will be have some cost, right? So that thing we have to deal with it. These things are really matter when you're working in a data analysis. Why these things are matter? Suppose you have a big query right now. If you see, let me show you something. So I just have this one big query. It's not that much big, but just have some 100 lines of query. Or you just, there are a lot of big, but I'm just giving an example, okay? Now what happen if this query is not optimized, it will take some cost, right? While performing, it will enhance, like it will make some issue with my performance, right, in a cloud. So what I need to enhance my query itself as well. Why? Because it takes some storage of RAM, and while running it, so what our job is as a data analyst, definitely we have to see that either whatever we working right now might be as an analyst job or as a data engineer or any transformation job we do. Ours also, we have to take care of the optimization of query, so we can store, like we can make cost efficient things in particular business, okay? So these things also we have to take care while we working as a data engineer or as a data analyst. Now, this thing you understood, this is, I'm just giving brief idea that how before Power BI, what things you should, just basic idea, what should things you need. It's not mandatory you should learn, okay? It's not mandatory you should learn AWS. It's not mandatory you should learn cloud architect and all solution architect. These things are not mandatory. It's just you have just idea that how your data is coming up. That is mandatory here. That you should know that's how your data coming up. Because mostly people getting error with their particular credentials, with their servers, okay? They are not getting errors while they creating database or while they performing their query. Mostly they getting the errors with the particular when they're working on a cloud, okay? Or it might be some different reasons, okay? It may vary from like query is not optimized, credential is not good, server ID down, servers down, okay? Data backup is not there. So there are a lot of things, challenges will come while working on a cloud platform. If you're working on local system, so right now, just for example, you work on local system, we hardly get any issues, okay? But while you're working on a company, you will get these issues. So writing a query, we will not get such issues which we're facing in a cloud. Let's take in one more example. So right now, if you see, I'm working on a Jupyter notebook as Spark query, okay? Spark SQL. Here I'm not getting any issues, but while I'm working here, same query, when I'm pushing it, if you see, there are some errors here, okay? And previously also I'm dealing some errors. It's just the same query, nothing it's difference. But while I'm running my query, I'm getting such issues, and I need to check where I'm getting the issue. It not in my particular code, it will be some server issues. If it is in my side, like what issues I will get from my side, query is not optimized, path is not proper given, it means I'm not giving the proper path or something which the data while I'm pushing it, I'm not getting it, okay? But while I'm working in a local system, these issue will not come, because we know that path or whatever we storing our local system. So these things we have to take care it while we're working in a Power BI in server. Okay, so there is one module called Power BI server. So these things comes later. As we training part, we just see only 1 or 2%, because I cannot show you the complete thing, as I'm not using any cloud for Power BI right now. I just give you some idea how it worked. But again, it is actually big platform while you working in a company, because you need to take care of a lot of things. So a lot of people, what they use Azure SQL Server agent as in Power BI, and they use OLP Azure Analysis Services for running their particular query in Power BI with use of DAX functionality. Okay, and DAX is very important things. The same way which I'm writing in a Spark SQL, they're using the DAX functionality. So then we have to take care a lot of things while we publish our report in a Power BI server. In local system, you hardly get anything. Second issues. Let's talk about the second issues as I talk about data, getting the data. So for example, I have a database, and the database in a AWS or Azure, any cloud. So while I'm getting the data, then another issue will come, like it will not connect properly. You might be thinking it is connect properly, but something which is missing. So you have to always take care of those error. So you have to, two things you have to always take care. First, either it issues from your side, like while you connecting. So from your side, only two issue will come. Either is the credential things or your server ID is not active. But mostly issues from the cloud team side. So these things we have to always take care. I would recommend you can go to this Power BI architecture official by Microsoft. You can go with the Microsoft. They have lot of architecture here, BI solution architect. So they will describe how it will work. So Power BI comes last of each of architecture. Any architecture you choose, like either SAP, either automation tools, Salesforce, any tools you will choose, you will find out that architectures comes Power BI comes very last, like very last of that particular architecture. Before that, it will be always about how to get the data, how to build the data, how to make a pipeline of it, how to do how to provide a like a platform to a developer. So these things comes first, and Power BI comes very last. So Power BI just, we have the data and we want to implement that particular in like for the ETL things and the data analysis thing. Okay, so these things, if you see here, okay, it's a very small architecture. So if you see, we have this cloud here, then here we have big data or data preparations, then they have a data storage here, we have a data warehouse. Ignore this machine learning. So machine learning is about, like, you have a historical data, they train the model and they push again in data warehouse, then you will come to report. In any like platform you will go off on architecture of Power BI, you will find report will come at the last. Means Power BI come at the last. It means whatever you do before that, a lot of things are going on. Okay, how the data is coming, from where it is coming, and how it is coming, and which type of it coming. These things we always take care of it. Okay, because you are working very last stage of the data. You are just implementing your solutions once your data is already clean, once you have a proper arranged data, then you are just publishing your report in a Power BI. Okay, so that I said earlier that you need to understand that in Power BI, if you use only for visualization thing, that is just 10%. If you're using as a ETL things, what is ETL extend for? Export, transformation, and load. Okay, we export the data, we transformation the data, and then again we load into the particular system. Okay, so why we need ETL? To get a clean out. For example, we have a 30 columns and unlimited of rows we have, but we don't require all the data. We just require 5-6 columns, and we specific conditions data we required it. So what we do a proper ETL of it, and we get as per our requirement, we get that much data, and push in our particular Power BI system, and then we do our analysis. Okay, so before analysis, what we need Power Query for it. Okay, I will show the architecture of Power BI as well, how this will work, but I'm just giving a high level of idea that how you need to understand that how your data is coming up. There is very key important things here. That is very important, actually not key, it's very important that you have to understand how your data is coming up. Okay, so for example, if you don't have the solution also, at least you go some people like those who are working on cloud or those who are working on data warehouse, so you can tell them that this is the issue coming here, this particular part, and you need to check on that, right? Because you cannot deal all those things. You need to understand that from where it issue coming, and you can report the particular issues. Because as like you working as a Power BI, so your job is just to provide a solution to a business which help in a particular business thing. But again, there are a lot of things are going on before your implementation solutions. You understood that part, Vincent?
Yes, Mr. Nagendra. Yeah. Little
Okay.
technical, but yes, going through it. Yes.
I'm not okay. If you find any difficulties, let me know. Huh? Explain in a proper way. Okay, I will try to explain a more easy way. Let me think one more time. Okay, so suppose there are five people, one working on a cloud. Like for example, your company using AWS. Then your company said we want to install MySQL. Okay, for creating a database. It can be any data source. I'm just giving an example. The cloud you're using anything, it just be AWS because there are a lot of companies using AWS or either Azure. There are very rare companies using GCP or IBM. IBM we used because as an internal resource we can use IBM. So you use AWS. So before installing your MySQL, what we need? We need a server ID. Why we need server ID? So you can like get your data from anywhere, right? To get your data online, so we need a server, right? So what we do, the cloud team, whatever the cloud person, there's a five people, right? So one is working on a cloud. So the cloud person, like for example, I'm taking a cloud part first. So what cloud person does, he gives something, like he gives server where all your server ID will run, and he provide you something specific domain or something he provide, he'd give you that particular. Or if he required VPN also, like a specific VPN, it will run to make your data more secure. So he provide all those things. Now, second, what you need a storage as well, right? Storage. For example, in a local system, we install a MySQL. I have a 1 TB of hard disk in my local system. Same it is, if I'm working on a cloud, I need a storage even though if I'm using MySQL in my local system. Because while I'm connecting the server, it will store my data into cloud, correct? So by default, if for a trial version, if you use AWS, it will give you 20 GB by default for particular MySQL or anything. Let me show you how it looks like so you will get more idea. So MySQL, you can install anything, even Postgre as well. I'm just giving an example. Okay, in AWS. So if you go to your this, see it's written free database of MySQL. So if you go here, overview, yeah. So here you get, see you will get EC2 like 750 hours. What is it? It is your server running time. Okay, you see your company is running on particular server, so 750 hours you will get free. So sometimes you might be heard that your server will not run on your weekend, right? It will only run Monday to Friday or after
Yes.
6 o'clock you close, right? Like these things what you heard. This means actually your server they will close it because it has some cost. Okay. So that is why they run their particular timing of that particular server. So they have to stop their server, otherwise it will cost you more. Then they have RDS. Now RDS has different thing. If you see both the things are different. EC2 and RDS. In the RDS, if you see here is written manage relational database services, MySQL, PostgreSQL, MariaDB, or SQL Server. There are a lot of things you can deal with, but these are the top things you can deal with RDS, relational database. So if I want to install MySQL here, so I need this RDS, okay, and I need EC2. Let me tell you what is difference between EC2 and RDS as well. It varies from different cloud. I'm just giving an idea, but it will very similar all the clouds. Okay, in Azure they have a different name called data source resources. Okay, resources management. Okay, let me show you something. My cloud, so you will get little idea, little hands-on. If I give you that, right, so you will get some idea. Yeah, so here you see we have this IBM cloud. Okay, this is my cloud. AWS have a different thing, Azure have a different. See, overview it will be different, means UI will be differ, but overall if you see the things it will be very similar, okay, to each and every cloud. So here you see I have resources. Let me show you. This is my dashboard. Right now you're seeing this is my dashboard, and if I go to this for example, if I want to see my resources, okay, so I can go click on my resource list. Resource list means what I'm using it, okay, for particular my cloud. So now you see I have this storage option here. I'm not using all the resources, but for it if you see I'm using here my storage. But now you see I have a different options, okay, CDP, Cloud Egg, IBM Cloud, these things. Okay, in these server, my different projects are running. So for example, if I click on this Cloud Egg, okay, now you see while I'm choosing this Cloud Egg, I'm getting a storage here. Okay, and for that storage, if you see this is still active, right? It means the server is continuously running, and they have a different costs here. If you see dev environment, test environment, and JS. Now I cannot show you the whole thing, but I can just tell you these are my storage, and this storage I have putting here in my some credentials here with using this particular tool, so I can view it my storage cost bucket, cost objective storage, that is the full form of cost cloud objective storage, sorry. So whenever anything will like I push it in my code or any data, it I can see it here. So if you see these are my storage here, And this storage, same storage, I am calling it in Jupyter notebook to make my query work. Okay, for testing my query. So if you see, I'm giving the path and all. If you see it, I'm giving the path and all. Okay, now this is for testing. Remember it. Same way you also do with your MySQL or any other platform you're working it. Now, if you're working on Power BI, same thing you have to also do. You have to give the credentials. Okay, if you see, I'm putting here my credentials, and it will be very right, it will be different your credentials. So I have this particular IP address. In this particular IP address, my particular class is running. Your will be differ, your access key and secret keys will be differ. Okay, now the same thing I have to do. I need the cause, and now I can perform my query and I can get the output. This is actually working in a in particular normal cloud. You get now idea, it's not looks more technical. Can now you little understood?
Yes, a bit.
Then same, let me just show you a more easy way. Little IBM cloud is little complicated. So here, if you go with the AWS RDS, you install MySQL. In MySQL, install 220 GB. If you see here is written it, 20 GB general purpose SSD database storage you will get. 20 GB storage of data backups of DB snapshot you will get. Why we need backup? Because sometimes if we get a downtime or any issue corrupting a particular data, so it will back up here.
Hmm.
Okay, so 20 GB we will get it backup as a, and 20 GB SSD we will get, and it will running 750 hours free of cost. Okay, after that you have to pay for it. Now this will, you will
Okay.
get your server for your database. Now this database, if you want to running on some another web profile or anything, so we need a server, right? We need a domain. So this particular data will connect with this Amazon EC2 instances. Okay, now I'm taking one example. For example, you have a website, so your website data, right? For example, you're working on a Facebook, so Facebook will running on EC2. Okay, and Facebook data on RDS. So this RDS data we want to also running in this EC2. Okay, so we need to connect both the things. So database getting online, it's a separate thing, and EC2 is will be separate thing. So remember one more thing, this server can be stopped. Okay, you can stop it, but this data you will not stop. Most of the company, the data server will they never stop. Why? Because the working of continue server, they vehicle can stop it because they don't require it. But working on data or something, they need it, right? They need continuously to working on the data, so that's why they
So without
hardly
server, the
stop that.
data will work, is it? Without the server, the database will work?
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
will
if we
work
stop the
without.
server,
Yeah, it will work because server is different thing. Okay, server is like you working on Windows, my Linux operating system, right? So if you see here, you will see 750 per month Windows or something. Okay, so for example, you want to install something in particular Python or any website here, right? You want to install, because see, what is actually server, you make a project in a local system, right? So it will run on local host something 8080 in your local system. You make a some project or website or anything, you make it. Now it's the same thing you want to run on somewhere, right? You want to run on a website. So how website will work? Same package, everything will be same, it will be just running on a cloud. So what I need a same operating system, right? If I'm working in my local system with Python 3, I need a Python 3 in server as well. If I'm working in my local system with particular Windows 10 or something, anything, whatever the OS requirement for that running a particular software, I need all those things to running the same thing
hmm
on a particular system. So that is server actually. So what server give you? To either use Linux will be less cost, or Windows is the more cost. So you might be go in website, right? GoDaddy or these hosting. There are a lot of website which provide you server. What they actually providing you? They're providing you hosting for your particular project. So for example, in your server, you install, you make a website with the basic requirement of whatever the OS requirement for particular that particular project. So what you do, same thing you need to push in that server. So you need an environment, right? You need Windows environment, you need Python environment, everything you need it to run your particular project. So that is a server. For database, you don't need those things. For those database, what you need? You need MySQL, that's it, and storage. So that thing you required, right? So that is things we have to do with the RDS. Now the difference between now you, if you go on a GoDaddy or any platform, you find server and hosting. There are two different things. Hosting is your data thing, and server is just running your project. So hosting is nothing. It's just empty without your server is nothing. It's empty. Without your hosting, it cannot work, because all your images of your websites or your particular data is where is storage store in your particular RDS system.
So the
So
websites have
every,
only hosting, is it?
yeah, website
Or they
it,
have
no
even
no
server? Like
no
GoDaddy, they
website,
have even server?
they have both the things actually. If you go in
Both
any
options.
platform,
Okay.
both the things. They have server as well. And this, if you go GoDaddy, let me show you everything. Okay, so if you go, why I'm telling you these all things, because you're working on Power very last stage. Okay, so you should know how your data is coming and how it working. I don't know what your project it is, but mostly a lot of people work on such kind of project as a Power BI developer. They don't work on website development, like the website data. They're working on some specific data, right?
Yeah,
But
we
you
work
should
on
understand.
employee related data actually
Yeah.
for the
So I'm
company.
just giving, yeah. So that's why told you that very hardly people work on website data. I'm just giving an example how to work. If I go, you will find web hosting per month, like something this price, right? But if you go with the server, like let me domain, okay? So domain is your server things. If you go with the domain names, as let
Okay.
me give you some idea. So if I find some ABC or H something, if I give something, right? Now you see, so this domain means this server, they don't have this name actually, they have a server ID, IP address. Okay, so this will, I will get 49 rupees. Okay, for
Hmm.
first within 3 years means I have to pay something per month 49. It means something around 1200 something I have to pay for it for this particular name. Okay, this is just a IP address, means here my website will run. But hosting means all my data, like if I go with this as well, but without hosting I cannot do anything. So it doesn't matter, you can buy server. Some people say now you have to buy hosting and GoDaddy both at the same place. It's not required. You can buy
Hmm.
hosting from AWS, or you can buy hosting from BigRock or any other website also. Even same AWS as well. If you have RDS in AWS and your host like server something in Azure, it doesn't matter, because you will get a specific IP
So you can have
address.
a cross connection and all.
Yeah, correct. You can connect it from here to here. You can connect it. So these things you can, like the hosting things, you need to connect with your server ID. The hosting things, again I'm repeating, the hosting things you need to connect with the server EC2, because here you will see your project and here you will see your data. So for example, you want to connect two different platform. For example, you buy hosting in a Big Rock and domain you buy in a GoDaddy. Okay, that's, I'm just giving an example. And now you want to connect it, so you will get a unique identifications in a Big Rock for your hosting. So you need to connect with this EC2 instance. Okay, that's it, and it's done. So now you will get your data in particular server ID, and your data installing in that particular server of this. So for example, you want to work on a database, so you just need this particular. But if you're working complete thing, so you need both the things. Now this is something cloud. Okay, now you understood cloud how it work.
Ah, yes, yes. I have a basic understanding. Yes.
Okay,
What's about the other
now
ones below there? Or this compute,
this one.
machine learning?
Okay, so this is different actually.
These are like
Previously
add-ons, is it? I mean, AI or
previously they
something it
don't
is?
have I'm telling you. So
Hmm.
previously they don't have this thing, like same
Okay, okay.
Azure also don't have machine learnings. Now they come up with a sage maker. So what right now, if you see, right, I have this Jupyter notebook, right? So machine learning operation I can implement here. So same way they also install this sage maker and everything, where you can implement your data analysis things.
What is the
Okay, so
Jupyter thing you just mentioned? Sorry.
Jupyter notebook, okay, it's kind of IDE where I can easily implement my things like in a
It's
Python
IBM
programming.
specific, is it? Or
No. It's a free of cost. You can go in Jupyter
okay,
Notebook
okay,
official website. Okay, but it installed in a cloud actually. It's installed in a IBM cloud.
okay. So
So
you have to pay
same way,
for it, some license or something?
yeah, exactly. So even if you want
Okay,
to perform this thing right in a AWS, so you need to buy this Amazon SageMaker or Amazon Lambda. Then you have to install Jupyter Notebook into that. So that is the thing. So you might be
okay,
heard a
okay.
company called Databricks. So Databricks is a big company which is using those things, and they try to like they develop actually big thing, big data in PySpark. They develop it. Okay, and then they put it in a cloud. So what now company do, whatever they are taking it, they're taking directly from a Databricks. Okay, that's how they're taking it. But previously it is not like that. So what we have to do mostly, like I'm talking about only specifically AWS. So what AWS does, you need to go this AWS Lambda, or now they put it this, you see now it's written new. Okay, previously it was not there. So what they
Mm-hmm.
do, you have to go with the AWS Lambda. In this AWS Lambda, you have to install a Jupyter notebook. If you see photographic taken, you will store in a S3 bucket. What is S3 bucket? It is kind of storage you will get. Okay, so for example, you have an Excel file. Okay, You need to install the Excel file in S3 bucket and you can call it here. Now you want to perform a machine learning algorithms. So what is machine learning algorithms here? Let me specifically mention it. Like they mentioned photograph. It's not like you can only install like a photo image into particular S3. You can install your audio, video, whatever the data you have, you can install. Like you can push it. But why they specifically mention this image data set or audio video data sets? Because machine learning is actually using for those things. Okay, for big unstructured data, for AI things, right? So that is why they come up with the solutions that rather doing the analysis with the SQL or a CSV file or XLS file or the other storage structure, if we someone want to do the analysis or anything, they want to train their model, so they can go with this machine learning. So what we need a Jupyter notebook for it, because Jupyter notebook give you very interactive things. At the same place you can write your code and you can see the output. The other IDE doesn't have this options, right? If I want to work on a VS code, so I don't have this option. I have to write whole code and then I have to run whole code, then I can see my output. So that is why people using Jupyter notebook right now to make their ETL things easy, okay, to run their code easily way. So Jupyter notebook is vastly used for ETL transformation for Spark SQL, Python, R programming, SQL, Spark SQL, Scala. So these things are usually used for the ETL things and big data things, and as well as machine learning, AI. All those things are working on a Jupyter notebook. But again, Jupyter notebook is just for testing purpose. Okay, it just have the ID which give you the output, give an idea how it is working. What previously happened, if you want to run a code, you cannot do, like, you cannot get the output directly until you are not running a code. So Jupyter notebook say, okay, you can have a code in me, and you can, when you enter it, you at the same notebook, right? For example, if you see, I just enter it, I can see my count here right now. Otherwise, what I have to do, I have to go in my IDE, I have to write my whole code here. If you see, this is my whole code. It's the same query which I'm taking from Jupyter
What is
notebook.
this? This is a production, is it?
Yeah, I have IDE. It's not a production, it's a development environment, but you can say that. So
Okay. So
mhm.
this is connected to your IBM cloud, is it?
Yeah, it's connected to my IBM
Those
cloud.
projects you just showed me. So this is you make the changes here based on that those three projects you just showed on your cloud.
No, it's a different way. Like it's definitely it's in running on a cloud, but they have a different project. I cannot show you all, but it's nothing. I have something secret. So this one is not so much. So it is like I have to write my code here. Okay.
Okay, yeah. So you
Okay.
write the code there, and where does that reflect?
So it will reflect into my cost actually here.
Sorry, into?
Cloud objective storage.
Okay.
Okay, let
So
me
any
give you some
changes
idea.
you okay, so
No, actually, it's not work like that. Let me. Okay, so let me tell you some brief idea. So what actually happening in we have IBM Cloud, right? So for running my this thing, first I need made to some changes. So that changes go to in my GitHub account. Okay, in my GitHub. You might be heard about GitHub, right? Gits and Git repository. So first I need to update my things in Git. Once my Git will update it, okay, here if you see, I have master means my production, so I can only change in my dev environment. Okay, until my dev is not good, I cannot go with the master and testing. So here I do some changes. See, I did some 4 hours, some changes here I did. So this changes once I did, I need to run a pipeline, and this whole pipeline, on IBM Cloud. If you see, it's a thing. It's a, if you see it here, it is okay. So it's on my IBM Cloud. Whatever I showed, it's a IBM Cloud. Just give me the server thing and all those things. Platform it give. Okay, I have lot of,
uh,
like, we have lot of pipelines
okay,
actually.
can you just no no can you just open that notepad and I'm a little confused now. Just to can you
Actually,
draw like
see,
a
it's
process flow?
okay. It's mine project, so it will vary from different project. Let me show it. So what is actually happening? See
No, just
how
just
actually
yeah. So your Jupyter, how is Jupyter Notebook
see.
linked to your production? Something you just showed there. ET is it
I'm telling
IT
you,
or something? So your
Jupyter
start and
Notebook.
endpoint. So maybe that will help me understand. Yeah.
Ha.
So let's say you're starting on some project now.
See, actually, Jupyter Notebook is we use for testing, because
Okay. Okay. Yes.
this whole query I cannot test at the same time in here in my particular code. I cannot test it, right? How can I test it
Correct.
here?
In
It's
production.
not
Yes.
possible.
Yes. Yes.
Right? I
You have
cannot
to
test
do
it.
the test. Yes.
So right. So what is actually happening? I have IBM Cloud. Let me write in everything. So I have a IBM Cloud in, or you have AWS something. In IBM Cloud, we install Jupyter Notebook. In IBM Cloud, we install Jupyter. Let me show you how we install it. So
Jupyter
if you
Notebook.
see,
Okay.
we have a database. So just now you see in AWS is written like SageMaker, right? Or you see AWS Lambda, right?
Okay.
And then you see S3 storage. Right, these things you see in AWS. The same way we have called data mesh platform, like a SageMaker. We call a data mesh. It is an IBM cloud and that is an AWS cloud. See, cloud is very big thing. Okay, like they have so many resources. So it depends what resources we are using it. Okay, for that particular, because you are not using all the resources of that particular cloud. So we have a data mesh. Now in this data mesh, whatever I do a code changes, it will I need CI/CD. What is CI/CD? CCID means continuous input and continuous deployment. Means at the same project, if 500 people are working, so there is no conflict will come in a particular pipeline. So even if I push the code or some another colleague will be push my code, it will no conflict will come. Okay. Otherwise, what happen if I push a code and CCID is not there, means continuous deployment, continuous development is not there. So what happened? My code and their code will be overwrite and it will not work properly. Let me show you how it is done. Okay, I'm not show my project everyone. Let me show you too. So now you see this is my data maze.
No, even if you show me a project, I won't understand. So no problem.
No, no,
It'll
it
go
just
over
I
my head.
cannot show it because of because we this project
Confidential.
is one.
Correct. Correct. Understand.
This project
Yes.
is 66 years old. This is
Okay.
yeah, so it is previously on mainframe. While I joined IBM, this is the first project of IBM which coming into a cloud. This is the first project.
Okay. Okay. So everybody
Uh,
works on this every continuous thing. Like okay.
yeah, so and I'm the and we working on IBM core IBM company. Like we don't have any clients and all. So
Hmm.
I'm Chief Information Officer department, which only deal with the IBM internal things. So this data maze you cannot see anywhere, even not even outsourcing. Like for example, you are an outer company, you want to use IBM Cloud, you will get IBM Cloud, but you cannot see the data maze because data maze is only
Okay.
using for IBM people. We are still like
IBM
working
employees.
on
Got it. Yes.
only those who are working core IBM. Like we have three departments IBM Research Lab, those who working R&D, then we have CIO, then we have GBS, and GBS have two departments. So CIC is called consulting department. So for example, your company is taking some employees from IBM, so they will support you, they will assist you in, if for example you have AWS, so they will provide you the AWS people. So a GBS do that thing, but we actually make our own things. Like we work on the particular internal projects. Now you see we have called hybrid cloud portal of for big data service. The same way AWS also have. Okay, they call cluster city. Okay, Kubernetes will not. So here if you see these are my two projects are running. Okay, there is dev environment and test environment. If I click on pipelines, so just now I showed you JLIW workflow, right? This is my GitHub repository. It is running on my cloud, but in this data mesh platform. Now you see JLIW workflow dev environment, and it is running on this particular environment, this particular IP address something. So if I click it here, I can create my own pipeline as well. So now you see this is the last
So
pipeline
sorry,
run,
but
and
just tell me exactly what is a pipeline again?
see pipeline is like while you making a project, right? So you need a platform like to running a particular repository. We need a
Like
pipeline for it.
connections or
Pipeline
something, is it?
is connections. It's a kind of word you can say. So
Okay.
for integration your project in a cloud, right? We need a pipeline for it.
Okay. Okay. Like
Okay.
API,
So
something like that, is it?
yeah, for example, I create as an API, right? So API will be in
Okay.
different, it might be on AWS, and I need to call in my Amazon in IBM
Mm-hmm.
Cloud. So how I call it? I need to connect with, I make a pipeline for it, right? I need to connect server ID, host ID. For example, I have Paytm. I need to connect with the Paytm, right, for payment link. So Paytm is a different, complete different platform, and they might be running on different cloud or something different, right? And I'm running on a different something, but I need
Okay.
Paytm things, right, in my particular system. So for that, I need to create a pipeline for it, right? How I can get the data from the Paytm, so my things will work. So there are a lot of projects are working in this. If you see, there are a lot of projects working in different pipelines. Now
Okay.
let
So
me,
this is all created by you, is it?
not me, other
Or
teams as
different
well.
different engineers? Okay.
Yeah. So we have lot of works. Okay, so in dev environment, if you see, we have two environment, one in dev and one is test. Prod I
Hmm.
cannot go with the prod. Okay, prod only my team leader can have the credential. I don't have the credential of prod. Okay, if you see my role of here for test environment, I can only view only for the test environment, but
Okay.
for dev environment I have the admin. Okay, so for dev I can do anything, but for test I can, because definitely, right, as I'm coder, so I cannot mess up with the things, right? So that is why I only have test. I can view it if I can find any issues, but prod I don't have even view and admin portal for the prod. Okay, now let me go one more dash, and this all things are in IBM Cloud. Okay, so IBM Cloud is running it here. Like this database is also running under the IBM Cloud. It's not something different,
But
it's just running inside
But
the
database is
IBM.
not part of IBM. It's separate, different, is it? Okay,
No,
IBM
no,
database it is. Same thing.
it's a
Okay, okay,
part
I
of
saw that.
IBM. Yeah, I told you, this
Okay,
just like AWS has Amazon SageMaker. So, for
okay,
example,
okay.
you don't want this whole thing. You just want to work only SageMaker. So you have to pay only SageMaker things. You don't have to pay for
Correct,
EC2
correct.
and these RDS. You don't have to
Okay.
pay for it. Okay, so like this it is actually. So now you
So
see if
which one of the AWS are you using now for your
we
from
are
that
not
whole
using
list
AWS.
you just showed? Okay,
We
only
are not
only
using.
IBM Cloud everything.
We use means in CIO we cannot use other resource. Okay, we just only
Hmm.
use IBM things in CIO.
Okay,
And then we have this Spark projects, and then we have accounts. So let me show you what it is, and let me show you the account as well. So in my account, okay, I don't have create any accounts, and then I have DB2. So DB2 is very similar like a MySQL, so we use DB2 as well. Okay, DB2 warehouse, we are not using some another database system. So now you see this is how it looks like. If I click on IBM database, so it will connect to my particular mail ID. I don't have to write any credentials. And here it is my CCID pipeline, which is called continuous input and deployment things. This thing will happen whenever I push my code into this GLIW workflow repository. It will come to my database things. I can test in my pipeline that it is working or not. The result I can test it two ways. Now once here will done, then I will go to my Airflow DAG. Okay, now you will ask DAG. So DAG is something called dynamically acyclic graph. Okay, what is it is? So Airflow is
never
kind
heard of
of,
it. Okay,
okay, so might be you work
so
on
is
any
this
particular.
outside? Okay, so this is not IBM owned, right? It's different.
Yeah, it's not IBM owned, but we used it, right? So that's the thing.
What is this used for? Sorry, again, get.
So we use for our particular each like particular Python programming. So whatever we code do, right? Once our deployment done, okay. Once our here it shows pipeline is done, right? It means my code is pushed to in the cloud, right? So now I want to
Okay.
test it, right? I want to test in my
Oh, so
data
this is your
because
test one. Okay, okay.
because I need to test my result, right? So see whatever I'm
But you
testing.
cannot use that Jupyter thing to test.
I will tell how Jupyter comes later. I'm just telling
Okay,
how it is work. So it's an application. So we are not using any web application something. I need to create
okay,
everything and it's a complete database thing. Okay. We are not using any web or something kind of UI, nothing. We are not doing that. Okay. It's a complete core data things we are working. So because we working on now IBM data. So I created this, like not me, the whole team created a data respect thing. Okay. So we have a DB2 warehouse. So we have this DB2 warehouse. So whatever I
oh
push
my
my
God.
code changes, I
How
need to
many
work
how
on
many
this.
tools do you have to change?
Okay, so we working on this DB2 warehouse. So let me tell you, just
Okay,
give you brief information. So DB2 is our main thing, and then we have a mainframe. So from mainframe, we taking a data like we whatever the data we required from mainframe, we take a data and we make a code changes and we push the code in our GL means in our project and to check over that particular code, right, to test it that it is working or not, we need to run this first this DAG. Without DAG we cannot implement our things. For example, if I go with the logs, any logs, so let me show you this log. In this log what is actually happening, it is storing a data from a different source system. So if I go to here, I go to on logs and then I can test it that whether it's successful or not. So here it says okay, it's running. And then we have sensor log. In sensor log I can find out any error is there or not in my code. So if any error will find out in my code, I need to go back again in my IDE and fix it. Okay, otherwise it will not run the other line. Okay, because I'm working in Python. So if you see here, everything is running, right? You're working on IBM cloud. This is your particular Spark directory. This is particular here your code will run. Every information it will give. Okay, while what is my code is working. Also, he will give the whatever the SQL code I run. So what is working in the SQL code, in which path it will store it, everything it will give me. Okay, this particular Airflow DAG. And if any issue will come, I will get the from here as well, what issue in my particular code, any credential issue or any something, because there is a huge project, right? So once this will completed, I can first go to verify the result into my cause. So if you see the last cause I run it here in this particular yesterday. So if you see, for example, I'm using this my cause, there are a lot of data. So yeah, so 5/3/2003, at this time the data is updated. How it is updated? Because of my Airflow DAG triggering. How Airflow DAG I trigger? First I need to do the modification in the code here. Now how Jupyter things will come? Okay, now tell me. So the modification I did, I cannot test it directly, right? I cannot go and check the directly my data. How I need to, I need the day, I need this cost, right? Some previous data I already have, so I need to test it. So I go to in my Jupyter notebook. Let me show you how Jupyter notebook I can make it. So I go to database. In database I click on get started, I click on login.